My name is Nicolas Alayo. I'm the director, writer for Playing Ourselves. The story means a lot to me. It's derived from a lot of experiences that I had in high school and in theater and in a particular relationship. Um, but I wanted to ask some other questions that I've been experiencing now and trying to refine my craft. And as we strive to do the best art that we can make, and to be the best and to continually push ourselves, where does that line of going too far kind of where we find ourselves on that line? And so those are the kind of questions I wanted to ask with this film. It's not particularly unique in the sense that it's some surprising or grandiosely original like plot essentially. I think the uniqueness comes in the characters themselves of Charlie and of Daisy. Charlie is they're both kind of two sides of myself in a sense, which was really interesting to write and to direct, and then also to see portrayed. My actors really brought a lot more to the characters than I thought, or than I had originally planned. So that was really really awesome, and they give such good performances, and it was really wonderful to see it come to life. When I first sat down with Brigida, who's my director of photography, um, we kind of we have this kind of sense already, just built in since we've worked together, and just like artistically, like our styles match up very nicely, and we wanted to continue what we had already built upon in some of the films that we had done, and there wasn't like a particular style that we were going for. Sometimes we'd replicate styles here and there, and we did draw from several different movies to build kind of the visual sense of this. But we wanted it to be something of our own and something organic and something that we were comfortable doing, while also pushing ourselves in different areas. We knew that we wanted the lighting to be kind of colorful and which is not something we had really played with before, as much as we have in this film, and just adding accent lights here and there, and colorizing it and adding depth in that sense. It was something that was new and that was exciting for us. But we focused a lot on how the camera moved depending on where we were in the story, and so a lot of it's locked off when it's kind of calmer, it's kind of more romantic, it's kind of all fluid, and then when we start seeing the emotions building and the tensions rising, we switch to that handheld camera, and yeah, we just had a lot of fun planning that visually, and we drew from Whiplash, Black Swan, Her. Those were, I think, were our big main ones because they have elements of stage, and then Her has a lot of like montage and very somewhat like washed out like nature scenes. I don't know if we did that one justice as much, but yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Directorially, um, I don't know. I think a lot of it was gonna come. I knew a lot of it was gonna come from how I worked with my actors, and how their chemistry was on screen, which was amazing. And we got really lucky with casting because I don't know, they're just such like genuinely nice people, and they had such a good chemistry off screen as much as they did on screen, and there was a real genuine care and love between them and for everyone on set, and it was a really great atmosphere. And yeah, I mean the story kind of banks on that chemistry, so it was good that they had that together, and we had done a rehearsal and kind of found the moments and found the motivations where we needed it to happen and not happen, and how, if this line means this or if it means something else, if they're saying this because of A or because of B, and allowing them to make those choices and allowing there to be a dialogue between all of us about it. So yeah, it's definitely a drama. It's not a comedy or anything, which I'm not really used to directing anyway. But yeah, so I don't know if that even answers the question. I don't know. We didn't go because Brigid and I in the past have done, or sometimes like we'll think of genres or cinematographers or directing styles that we would like to replicate, and kind of bring our own twist to it. For this one, it was not so much of that, and we really wanted to put as much of ourselves in it. And I think we have been comfortable doing that before, while still challenging ourselves to try new elements, especially with lighting, which was the biggest one. But I think it turned out to be it was a lot of fun, and I think it turned out better than I had imagined it, and the challenges that we overcame, were give it that kind of extraness of us, I guess. I don't even, I think it might have been the artwork, actually. When I made the original poster with Audie, she was the one who designed the original hand drawn poster, and it was a very blue tint, and so I was just trying to find. Well, in that time, I was also trying to find a title, which I went through hundreds, but I was also trying to find like a font and like how to design the poster and make it aesthetic. And yeah, those were the colors. I kind of just found this image online that had these kind of meld of pink and blue, and I just thought it complemented the poster really well. And so we derived actually most of the lighting from that. There wasn't like an actual like thematic reason for like the blue or the red, or the pink really, and the turquoise-ish. We did use the color red predominantly in a particular scene right before kind of the two characters blow up on each other, and we played a lot with shadows as well for the director, because we want her to be intimidating, and kind of this very somewhat daunting presence, and so we would backlight her a lot, and we'd have her face in shadow when we could. But I think the colors just ended up complementing each other really nicely, and yeah, we just kind of threw it wherever we could. Yeah. So going from pre-production to production was super hectic, and not hectic, but it was very nerve-wracking. It was very stressful, I think. And even up until the last day, we were like the day before shooting. Actually the first weekend when we started shooting, because we were doing a lot of the montage stuff and a lot of stuff at Daisy's house, and then stuff at Charlie's house. And the scene that takes place at Daisy's house, or the location rather, is one that's kind of nearby and that we had some access to beforehand. So the Thursday before Friday, so the day before we started shooting, we had gone into that house and we completely redecorated it to fit Daisy, so that we wouldn't have to waste that time on set on Saturday or whenever we were shooting. But we were still buying, I think the big thing was we were like buying lights, and Lex was like just had all her props like moving in and out, and it looks fantastic, which is really great. But yeah, it was just like little logistical things always pop up. It's like, is the hotel booked? Is like the call sheets accurate? Are we doing the actual scenes that are on the call sheet, or do we have? I think we even like extended the schedule a touch, like a few days before and that week before, just because I just had this gut feeling that we were gonna have to take more time on it, or we weren't gonna be able to use the equipment that we thought we should or could be able to use. And but thankfully, like, it's always that first day that's like, like let's just get into it and let's do it. And it took us a little bit of time in that first scene to start up, but I think the first day was definitely our easiest day. We had like a very minimal crew, which I'm always about. I really don't like huge crews. Like that second weekend, it was just so many people, and I was like, it wasn't like, it wasn't bad or anything. It was just like a lot to manage. But I'm much more comfortable with like, I think we had like 10 people maybe, which was very nice. And there was no sound either, so it wasn't like we had to worry about that. It was just montage stuff. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and it was a very easy day to kind of get acquainted with everyone on set, and to get acquainted with the actors, and to see how they worked, and to kind of see what, how everyone was doing, kind of what level everyone was on, and from there, it just took off. And at that point, we didn't really have time to think about what could go wrong until it went wrong. Yeah. And it did go wrong a little bit, but yeah. Oh man, that was very tough. Making a schedule scheduling in general is just tough. And it was, not only did we have long scenes, but we also had, especially, it was mostly our theater weekend, which is our second weekend, where we were working, our first day we were working within a very somewhat tight time constraint with the theater, and even the second day of the theater, we had to be out like just because it was the polite thing to do because we were on set for 12, 13, 14 hours maybe, and it was we didn't want to overwork people. Essentially, is what the big thing was, and so yeah, so our first weekend we did a lot of the stuff where they're kind of, falling for each other, and then we basically like the montage sequence, which we started with, was like all the stuff where they're kind of in love and like they're doing this thing, and then the second location, which is Daisy's house, which is our second day, it's kind of them beginning that journey and that them talking about um, method acting essentially with each other, and then our last day was the kind of the scene that puts everything on its head when she kind of tells him that that it's just all facade almost. And so that progression kind of really worked because then the actors get comfortable with each other throughout this weekend, and then that downfall, and so that chemistry that builds up to there it felt really natural. And then the second weekend with the theater, it was somewhat the same thing. I mean, we started with the very opening scene in the theater, and then, or maybe I think we did something where it was like the wedding scene, which was like a really nice scene, and then and then the opening scene, but then we built up to the scene 47 where they have that big argument and he like screams at Rodaz, and then when we come back and so it was just a very nice progression of just energy, and getting that was difficult because of those time constraints and because maybe a scene that we wanted to do earlier we just didn't have time for because it was longer. But we tried to do it in a way where we, I don't know exactly how we did it, but we figured it out. Yeah. And then our very last day of that weekend was all the montage stuff of them just practicing the theater stuff. So like just going through the pseudo script that I had written for them to kind of just do it. And that was a really cool day because we were in the soundstage, so we weren't actually in the theater, and we had to basically recreate lighting and the set pieces that we had in the theater itself, and just like the soundstage, and so we kept the camera very focused and we didn't cut out to any wides. And Lexi did basically, we started with the set the way it was, which was all complete essentially, and we had them in full costume like they were rehearsing, and then we kind of like worked backwards. So then we started taking costume pieces off and we started breaking the set deck down and like making things looking like they were getting built or they were half built until we were like on bare bones set decoration and this very casual clothes, it was kind of cool. Yeah, she did a great job. Yeah, well, Lexi is our set decorator, and she did a fantastic job. We were able to give her the budget that allowed her to kind of to get what she needed for all the sets, and I think Daisy's house for me was the most impressive. There's just a lot of little details that she kind of brought to her house that I was, because we talked about it and we said, this is what I think I kind of see Daisy as and her personality, and this is what kind of be in her house, and then she just kind of took it to the next level. And I just remember standing in front of the mantelpiece with like the little masks and the New York Post, and I was just like, Lexi, you're a genius. But the panels in the theater is something we had talked about because we wanted to wallpaper, because those panels are just blank like tan panels that are kind of really ugly. And so we wanted to add something to them and put like items in front of them to kind of just give it more dimension essentially. And so we had talked about what kind of wallpaper we would get and this, that, and the other. And Lexi just likes wallpaper. I think it takes, for good reason. I think it takes, like, if you have a blank wall and you add a wallpaper, it suddenly adds a whole new dimension to it. It's a personality in and of itself. Yeah, so it was very a very delicate process to make sure it was all lined up, and then she was just sad to take it down essentially. I guess they're still on there, so so they're still on there. So she couldn't, especially when we were stripping all the sets down, like for those last montage scenes. She was just like breaking her heart to like tear the wallpaper off and get rid of it. But yeah, no, I think it's just like that even that aspect of the wallpaper on the sets, I think, adds so much to the production value of that theater scene. And we had such a large location to kind of live up to, essentially, that those pieces really brought a lot to it and brought a lot of authenticity to it, I hope. So yeah, and it's always like those kind of unseens where it's like people just run in with props and set them, and then they're gone and they're already there by the time you turn around. So it was that's why I told you to capture them because like they just and they're the ones who had to work almost the fastest. It was like set deck has to get done in like 3 minutes, and then lighting's got 10, and then camera better be ready. So yeah. So the first day we were in Balboa Park, and that was really nice because Balboa was just beautiful. And we were we went to some like nice little locations there. There was like kind of like a redwood, like a mini redwood forest that we shot at. That was really nice. There was like a veteran rose garden that we also shot at, and we really wanted to, as much as we could, just fill the frame with flowers. So like a lot of the colors in that were a lot of fun to kind of just throw in there and to add those accents. I think my favorite part from that set was the Polaroid picture that we took of Christian. It was a nice shot. I took the picture, and I wish I had done something different to make it look a little nicer, but everyone seemed to like it. So I think the best thing from our first set, which was Balboa Park, was seeing Christian and Rachel's chemistry finally like come to life on screen. We had done rehearsals, and they're both easy to talk to and easy to relate to, and just kind of build a friendship, with. But seeing them kind of on screen together for the first time, finally, after all this pre-production and casting and all this, and allowing the scenes that we shot there, which were the montage, which is the stuff where they have to have that chemistry, and having that be the first thing that we shot was really wonderful, and I think everyone on the crew, at least on that small crew, was like already falling in love with them as well, and it was that those first moments where we're just testing the waters, and we kind of knew that we were going to be in good hands. Yeah, Haley's house was a lot of fun to decorate. The scenes that we had, the one take, we wanted to do a really long tracking shot through the house and then up some stairs and outside, which was turning out to be really complicated with focus pulling and lighting and whatnot. So we decided to split it up into 2 shots because we wanted to. There's like a kind of little reveal on the top of on the patio with like all these lights, and we had spent a lot of time like set decking that day before, or 2 days before, I think, at that point, and just getting it to where it was like a canopy of lights, and they enter at sunset, so like the lights aren't on, but when we were set decking, we were like we were set decking into the night, and so when we turned the lights on, it was just like this array of stars. I mean, it was like a bunch of little LED lights basically, and on that day we were like, we got to get a shot of this somehow, because we don't have, like, the only shot we have up here is at sunset, and so we won't see the lights on. And so there was an original scene where they were like at the door saying goodbye, and I was like, Megan, we're cutting that scene. We're going upstairs to the patio, and once the sun set and the stars were out, and so we got a shot of them amongst all the lights up there, and which I think was way better than the front door scene, which is kind of boring. And so yeah, I think that was a memorable moment, and they really loved it too, because they walk in. I mean, Rachel walked in, and it was the house of her character, and anything that you can like give an actor to like work off of, or to really immerse themselves into that environment is wonderful. And so having that there and having the rest of the house kind of prepared beforehand was a real benefit and a real charm, I think. We shot Charlie's house at a Beechwood Motel in Oceanside, and it was this tiny motel room that we basically just wanted to make look like a 1-bedroom, well, like 2-room apartment essentially, because it's his living area, sleeping area, and then the kitchen, and that was basically all we wanted to confine him to. That was a lot of fun to decorate Charlie's house. We stripped everything from the motel room, so like their big couch, their big paintings, anything that kind of made it feel more upscale, and took it all out, put it outside, and then Lexi brought in like the one futon and some bookshelves and stuff, and then we were shooting that day, and the most notable thing from that set obviously was the nose break, which was thankfully like the last shot. It was like the last part of the scene, and it was the last shot we were getting, and it was the second take. So we had already done a take where he breaks the lamp and it's fine. So it worked out in that sense, but he broke his nose when trying to do it that second time. So yeah, that was definitely the most notable thing that happened on that day. I mean, emotionally, Christian was at a point where he had to, kind of translate and come to terms with his anger, or in his character at least. And whether it was anger or sadness or being heartbroken, and kind of all exploding essentially all at once. And so for him, so just on set there was kind of like not a tension, but a very seriousness and a very like somberness almost. And so we would, kind of everyone would settle down and be quiet, and we'd get prepared. And then I just wanted to make sure that I was very focused on the glass breaking, because I knew he could take care of himself, and I'd give him his directions, and he knew what he needed to do. And I trust him as an actor. So I was just trying to make sure that the glass broke the way I'd wanted it to. And so we do the take, and the first one, and it's fine, and we shattered the one lamp the first of the two lamps that we had. And then the second take, I really wanted him to like scoop it up from the table and smash it on the wall. And so we're doing the take, and he scoops it up, but it doesn't break, so it kind of like jumbles up and like falls to the ground. And so when he goes, and I hear that it doesn't break, so I know that we've missed it. And I don't know why I didn't just call cut when it didn't happen, but like I see him like going to knee it essentially, or to stomp on it. And so that's when I started calling cut, but at that point it was already too late, and whacks himself in the nose. And then I don't know that he's broken his nose at that point. He's like, "Oh, I just hit myself in the nose," and like people like give him paper towel and like run him out as like I'm walking into the room from some back room, and then like I'm refixing the lamp to prepare for the next take. I have no idea, And so I walk out. I'm like, "Hey man, are you okay?" He's like, I think my nose is broken. And I was like, "Oh no." I was just like, because it was bleeding. I mean, it was just, like he was like, "Yeah, no, yep, it's yeah, I think I broke my nose." And I was like, okay. So we put him in a car, and Andrew and Megan and I think Tom and we all hopped into a car, and we drove him to the nearest hospital. And I turned to Marielle, and I was like, "You're in charge, break down set, send everyone home, because there's nothing else we can shoot today." Although we missed a shot. We missed to get there's like a little insert shot that we missed, but it's no big. So then we rushed to the hospital, and he's just kind of there in the car, and Andrew's like, "It's okay, man, just keep the pressure on the nose." And I'm just like free. I'm just like, all right, what does this mean? Because it was our first weekend, so I was like, what does this mean? How do I work around this? I'm already trying to find like an exit plan and try to like. So we get to the hospital, and they examine, like, yeah, it looks a little fractured there. And so they take him in to do an x-ray, and then he's in the hospital. Like, he's being examined for like an hour or two. And so Rachel shows up. She brings all his stuff. And she's there waiting with us. And, after a while, he took it so well. Like, Christian was just like, he was just like, "Yeah, no, it's just, I'm a little uncomfortable, honestly." He's like laughing through it and just being a really great sport about it. And so, kind of joking around and whatnot. And so we're there just kind of talking and, just hanging out. And then he finally comes out, and he's like, "Yeah, well, it's broken." And, we realized it didn't look as bad as, as we all thought it might. And he did the second weekend with that broken nose, because he was afraid that if he knocked it back into place, it would swell up. And then that would really cause a terrible continuity issue. So he decided not to, and we just put makeup to cover up the bruising that kind of happened under his eyes. There was a moment in the hospital where I was talking with Megan, and I was like, I don't know. Well, we don't know how bad it is, and we don't know narratively, like, if this is gonna have to change the story in any way, and especially because we're shooting out of order, it's gonna be hard to like retroactively like write a scene differently or something, because his nose will already be broken when we do the first scene next week. And so I was just nervous, and just like the whole time. And and then when he came out and we were all like relieved and happy, and Rachel gave him a huge hug, and she was super worried. Um, but yeah, he did great, and then Tom, took one for the team, and he drove him back up to LA that night so that he wouldn't have to drive. So yeah, that was a bit of a crazy, crazy night, crazy end of first week. And while we were rehearsing, we had done a full day of rehearsals, like 1 or 2 weeks before we started shooting, and we had finished, and we were just talking. And he's like, "Yeah, man," and that monologue like really gets me. That's like kind of like what happened to me. And I was like, "What do you mean?" Because I was glad he was connecting with the story, and I was like, "Oh, well, like, what do you mean?" And and I was like, "Did your dad pass away?" I kind of just blatantly said that. I think I almost like I didn't mean it as like a joke, but like I was just kind of because the biggest parts in that monologue are his dad passing away and a girl breaking up with him, and I had assumed at some point he had been with a girl and then had to end it with, but so that was kind of like the only one that stuck out with me. And he goes, "Yeah, he actually passed away when I was really young, when I was 4 years old." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry." And he said, and earlier that day I'd asked him if he'd be okay with sending us some pictures of him with his dad, and I hadn't known he passed away, so I felt kind of like a like a jerk. But he was like, "Yeah, no, that's why I was really, because." And it just became one of those things of like, again, one of those questions that we're dealing with in the film is like, how much do we put ourselves into the art? And so the fact that the monologue had been written, and I hadn't talked to Christian, like he was like, did I tell you like any of this stuff? And I was like, no, man, like it's just, and the fact that the monologue really hit home for him, and in that kind of detailed sense of this life experience happening it became that question of like, well, how much do we bring to it, and how much do you bring to it? And so when we got the picture, of him and his dad when he was younger, it was the only photo that was in his apartment. And so I remember him walking through set just before we started shooting, while we were still setting everything up, and yeah, I think it was. I don't know. I can't say exactly what he was feeling because I was, doing a million other things. But I think it was definitely getting him into the mindset. And he was saying that it kind of looked like either his bedroom back home or his like apartment or something. And so that whole day was, I think, I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I don't know how he handled it. But I think it was very emotional and very, very personal to him. And I'm glad that it was, not in the sense of like, I'm glad to, but I'm glad that it was because it adds so much to that performance, and the fact that he was able to, I don't know, like I said, I don't know how it was for him, and I don't know if it was like a consoling kind of thing or therapeutic or kind of thing, but definitely having to talk about that and I think it a lot of it came out when he was talking with Rachel and stuff. Their kind of conversations that they would have amidst everyone prepping, and so that day kind of was kind of the culmination of that, and kind of him being in the exact same spot where Charlie was at that point in the story, which was, I think, really crazy. So yeah, this project I think was more stressful than anything I'd done at school. Because of the budget, and not because we either didn't have enough or anything. It was just, I think it mostly came from because we were lucky enough to have so many supporters of the project. It was very much a thing of we didn't want to let them down, for me at least, and we wanted to make sure that if we were paying people, that they were earning what they deserved, and because we were paying for locations and whatnot, we wanted to make sure that we had enough money to pay for them, and then where that would cut in for other things that we had budgeted for, things that either were ending up costing less or costing more. And it was just, it adds a whole nother dimension, which I'm not excited about to deal with again as I go on. Um, so yeah, so the takeaway was that I hate money when it comes to filmmaking. It just adds this whole other, almost like a certain politics that's just not fun to deal with, and it just adds a lot of stress. I think the most stressful part for me was scheduling and dealing with that. I like to keep sets casual and keep sets fun, when when they can be. Um, Stress is a terrible thing to work with, and so any way that I can make everyone else feel comfortable and not stressed, is is what I'll do. Any way I can do that, I'll do it. But I mean, it's important to know when it's okay to kind of be casual and kind of be fun, and then it's important to know when not to be. And I think it was very clear, and um, the way that we were talking to actors was very different, and it was just, I mean, the scenes themselves kind of, it's very clear which ones are and aren't, and if we needed to clear a room, then we would clear it. If we needed to, if we didn't need the people to be there, and if we needed our actors to feel like, not like a thousand eyes were watching them, then we'd walk them out. And I think communication was the biggest thing. I think, between Brigitte and I, and me and Megan, and me and Marielle, it was, and the camera team and the lighting team and all this. It was just, you need to keep that open communication, and we had some struggles with it. There always are. But I think because everyone was on the same page, everyone knew, when Marielle says quiet on set, and when Marielle starts talking, you better listen because she's in charge. Um, and um, and so yeah, I think being able to, the balance is between being clear on what everyone's role is and what you're doing. And so I think we found that pretty well, and it was pretty well defined from the get go. Set. I mean, the 2 weekends went by like that. Like the 4 or 5 days that we actually had in between our 2 weekends felt like nothing. And the team we were able to build and the people that we were able to surround ourselves with were fantastic. And I love working with like every single one of them. And some of them I had never worked with before. But there was just kind of this sense of family on set, and this sense of just kind of everyone working towards the same goal for the same reasons, for supporting each other, and pushing everyone to be the best. And there was a lot. I mean, there's a lot of stories and a lot of little memories here on set. But I don't know. I think just sitting. Oh, I got it. Sitting at the end, on the last day we wrapped. On the day we wrapped production, we were able to look at some of the footage that we had captured, from the previous days, basically. And so a lot of the crew and our two main actors, they came in and they watched for the first time what we had been shooting for the past 2 weeks, because they hadn't seen anything. And that was a lot of fun, just because it was like we were done and we felt good about it, and then we were able to see some of the the fruits of our labor, essentially. And we all took forever to say goodbye, and it was just wonderful, because it felt like a family, and we had been working with each other, and there was just so much love on that set. And yeah, it's always a little heartbreaking, I guess, to end a set like that, when you're working for 6 days straight with people and spending all this time focused at one thing. And yeah, I think it was, I don't know if there's one particular memory that I could anecdote about, but I think it was just the whole experience in and of itself.